Rihanna's made her fans wait over 4 years for her new album, but luckily, we've only made you wait 2 weeks for a new episode. Hello, I'm Siobhan Nolan.
And I'm Tyler Small. We took a little bit of a 2-week hiatus just because, we're honest with you here, we had nothing to talk about. But stay with us this week and see if we do have something to talk about. You're watching LaSalle TV's home for Explorer Athletics SportsLine.
Welcome to SportsLine. Today we welcome on the website manager for the men's basketball team to discuss the upcoming season and what we should expect.
And later, we sat down with 3 members of the men's soccer team to talk about how they've been able to deal with the delaying of the season and how they're staying ready for whenever their name is called.
But first, let's take a look at our SportsLine top 3.
Number 1, the women's volleyball team has welcomed on a newcomer to their coaching staff. Becca Strange will be joining the Explorers as an assistant coach. The former A10 Libero of the Year comes to the Explorers after an impressive career with VCU, capped by an A10 championship in 2017. Most recently on the collegiate level, she served as a volunteer assistant with Loyola Chicago. A 4-year starter for the Rams, Strange punctuated her collegiate career with a decorative senior campaign. During the regular season, she earned Best Libero at Texas A&M Invitational, won A10 Defensive Player of the Week on 4 occasions, and led the conference in digs per set with 5 as VCU went undefeated in A10 action. Ahead of the postseason, she was named Libero of the Year in all-conference first team.
Number 2, the Explorers softball team has added depth to their pitching staff, welcoming 2 new transfers. Junior Sarah Jawalo and sophomore Reagan Ware have been added to the LaSalle softball roster as transfers from Siena and Ashland. Jawalo comes to 20th and Olney after 2 seasons at Siena, which is a member of the MAAC. During her 2 seasons with the Saints, the Levittown, PA native holds an 0-3 record in 23 appearances. The lefty tossed 35 and 2/3 innings of work with a 6.42 ERA, 26 strikeouts, 25 walks, and a save. In both of her seasons in Loudonville, New York, Jawalo was a member of the MAAC academic roll for holding a GPA of 3.2 or above. Ware joins the Blue and Gold after 1 year at Division II, Ashland in Ashland, Ohio. In a shortened season with the Eagles due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the Crew VA product started all 5 games she appeared in and recorded a 3-2 record. The rookie posted a 2.50 ERA in 28 innings of work with 11 strikeouts and 14 walks.
And number 3, we actually have results from a live sporting event including LaSalle students. Despite having a shortened season in the spring and the limitations that came with the COVID-19 pandemic, several members of the LaSalle community baseball team found opportunities to take the field for summer league teams. Outfielder/third baseman Jack Cuccinata and catcher Tatum Levins both teamed up for the Lexington County Blowfish in the highly competitive Coastal Plains League. Infielder David Smith played on the Old North State League for the Mocksville Muscadines, and right-handed pitcher Manny Corcoran pitched for the Wisconsin Woodchucks in the North Woods League. Cuccinata got off to a scorching start and finished the summer with a .279, .439, .475 slash line to go with 17 runs, 4 doubles, 2 home runs, 7 RBIs, 17 walks, and 5 stolen bases over 21 games. Meanwhile, Levins also got off to a hot start before his season was cut short. In his 4 games of action, he slashed a .330, .538, 1.000 with 4 runs, 2 homers, and 3 RBIs. Smith was also selected as an All-Star and had a very strong summer in North Carolina. The speedster led the entire league in stolen bases with 23 in 21 games. The next closest was 12. Smith also had an OSNL in walks with 25 and was second in on-base percentage at .558 and runs with 26. He finished with a .288 batting average to go with 10 RBIs. Corcoran made 6 appearances on the mound for the Woodchucks throughout the summer, all of which came in relief. He went 1-0 with 11 strikeouts and 6 earned runs allowed over 9 1/3 innings of work. His best performance came in his final outing of the season, throwing 3 hitless shutout innings with 4 strikeouts in a win.
That does it for this week's edition of Top 3. Now we are happy to welcome Austin Petolillo to discuss this upcoming men's basketball season. Austin, thank you for stopping by.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
All right, so let's dive right into it. Give us the answers. Are we playing? Please tell me we're playing.
I think we will. I think it's going to be a little bit of a delay from what I've been seeing, from the national guys like John Rothstein. He's saying that a lot of these not postseason, but like in-season holiday tournaments are going to be playing in a bubble. Like I saw that the one down in the Bahamas, they're moving to South Dakota, which is a severe downgrade of what they thought they were going to be. But I think we will play. I think we'll start around Thanksgiving sort of time, and hopefully, all systems are a go by then.
So obviously, basketball teams want to be practicing as early as they possibly can, but do you think that delay, however long it might be, is going to affect the momentum of these teams going forward?
I don't think they will, because it's a brand new season. It's not like you're sort of restarting, like you've seen in baseball and basketball and hockey. It's kind of just a clean slate. Everyone's got an even playing field here. I think, the players are certainly, still being active, whether it's going to the gym or even playing some pickup basketball, out on the street. I think the guys are still being active. I think the coaches are obviously still being active. And, I've seen a few images of the team sort of practicing in Gola. So that's certainly a good sign.
Yeah. I was going to mention that it did see some pictures of Ash kind of all masked up. They had some really powerful pictures together, so that was good to see. So who do you think this is the most hard on throughout all this? You think it's a coaching staff kind of instilling that? Because obviously playing pickup basketball is not nearly the same as Division I caliber ball.
Right.
Is it for the freshmen that are really coming in? Who do you think will have the biggest impact with this kind of hold off or not knowing what's going to be the certain future?
I think it's the freshmen. They're coming into a whole different environment. High school ball is, even in a normal year, high school ball is way different than college ball. It's, you see guys take a little bit of time to get adjusted. They even have to redshirt some years. I think kind of like you've seen in the NFL with the rookies and all that, they're kind of, it's only been one game, but a little bit of struggle, no OTAs, no preseason. I think you're going to sort of see the same effect in college, but like in basketball, I don't think the whole adjustment is as big as it would in football, where you have to learn a new playbook. You have to do all this and all that. I think basketball is basketball. You know how to play. You don't need to read a play. I mean, you do, but like not to the extent of in an NFL. So I think the freshmen will be a little bit impacted, but I don't think it will be as bad as people may think it will be.
And you're kind of our expert for men's basketball. So are there any particular freshmen or just players on the team in general that you think we should be looking out for this season?
Yes, absolutely. A guy named Jameer Brickus. He went to Coatesville High School. He scored over 2,000 points in high school. This guy is a just pure bucket getter. And we've seen in the past, Ashley Howard is not afraid to play freshmen a significant amount of minutes. So I would expect to see him on the court a lot this upcoming season, and I think he will contribute pretty well.
Great. Good name to look out for. So now if we're going into the player personnel, got to address the elephant in the room. What do you think Ed Croswell's leaving is going to do to this team? What do you think they're going to change their fundamentals around kind of utilizing the big? Because it really did seem like he only trailed David Beatty in points per game by 0.3. So losing your centerpiece, what do you think LaSalle is going to do from here?
He really was their best player last year if you watch the games. What he did on the defensive side, what he did on the glass, the scoring contributions, he was very good. But they also do bring in a guy, Clifton Moore, who was a transfer from Indiana, redshirted last year per NCAA rules. I think he will be almost as good as Ed Croswell, if not better than him. I think he is a high-level guy when he was coming out of high school. Croswell, you're going to lose a lot with him, but I think they're still going to run the same sort of offense that Ash has been running, since his time here. Get a lot of shots up, get a lot of perimeter shots up, sort of have the big guy as the safety valve if nothing is open on the perimeter, and just go from there.
So you mentioned that they're probably not going to make a lot of changes to their playbook. So since there's not going to be a significant difference in how they play, what do you think we can expect in terms of results this season?
When you see new head coaches come in, for the most part, they do get better year after year after year, which is, because they bring in the guys that they personally recruit. More guys that Howard has recruited are coming in. You saw last year was a big step up from the year before. Obviously, we don't know how they would have done in the A10 tournament, unfortunately, or the postseason. But I think this year will be another pretty big step in the program. And I think by next year, I think they will be a pretty competitive team in the Atlantic 10. But this year, I think they'll be solid. They'll certainly, I think they have the firepower to take out some of the big A10 teams. But I think you won't really see them contending for a top 4 spot until next season.
Okay. Way to keep us humble. I appreciate that. So you talked somewhat about the freshman standouts that you think are going to come in. What about some of the sophomores that you see coming in? I mean, do you see Brendan Stone kind of taking a bigger step with the absence of Ed Croswell? If you've ever heard this show before, you know how big of an Ayinde Hakeem fan I am, and I think that his athleticism is out through the roof.
Listen, I've been to a few LaSalle games last year. Watching him jump for a guy his stature, pretty small, he gets up there, and that's certainly something that they can use to their strength. And you talk about the sophomores coming in, one of the sort of question marks, even dating back to last season, was the point guard spot. Is it going to be Sharif Kenny? Is it going to be Ayinde Hakeem? You saw Ashley Howard, sort of do point guard by committee almost, sort of do the matchups. If you want a physical matchup, you bring in the 6'4" Kenny. If you want sort of more an athletic, a little more quick matchup, you bring in the 5'10", I'm not sure off the top of my head, guy in Hakeem. It's sort of like a pick your poison with them at the point guard. I think you will see Christian Ray, though. I think you'll see him take another step forward. He has pretty good perimeter defense, and I think another year under his belt, he'll do pretty well.
So if anyone watching is anything like me, I don't know a ton about basketball. So what would you say is like a crash course kind of thing is our team's biggest strengths and biggest areas of improvements for this season?
I think biggest strength, they didn't really shoot the lights out last year, but they have guys that can shoot from beyond the arc. You bring back Scott Spencer, who was the team's best three-point shooter. David Beatty is a pretty good shooter. He's a good combo guard. I think the shooting will be better this year. Of course, you bring more guys in, freshmen, sophomores, they get better with the shots. Weakness, I would have to say maybe their defense a little bit. They could certainly work on that a little bit in the post, on the perimeter. Of course, you got guys like Christian Ray, and Sharif Kenny's a pretty good defender as well, and as well as Hakeem. But I think overall as a unit, they can certainly do a better job on the defensive end. And actually, he preached that a lot last year. The defensive effort won or lost them the games, and they just got to be consistent with that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, shooting really was a struggle. I mean, 33.6% in the A10 was second to last. So definitely something they like to see, but they do like to shoot it. So to give you a little bit of a plug, I mean, you kind of cover all of Philadelphia's. You're not just LaSalle.
Yep.
So say the website again, Trenton to Philly Hoops.
Trenton to number 2, Derek Jeter, Philly.com. The website is called Trenton to Philly Hoops, but if you want the URL, it is Trenton to Philly.com. I cover Villanova basketball, St. Joe's, Temple, Penn, even Ryder up in my neck of the woods in Bucks County. So it's pretty good coverage. Just go to all the games, talk to all the coaches, the players, put a good story out. I love it. It's awesome.
Great.
Yeah, it's cool.
Great. So
and also goexplorers.com too.
Of course. We always plug them every episode.
Yeah.
So since you do have such a wealth of knowledge for the Big Five, how do you think the Big Five is going to shape up this year if everything goes according to plan as normal?
Yeah.
Do you see Villanova dominating again? Do you see Penn continue to step up, or do you see our Explorers kind of just shock the Philadelphia area?
It's like Groundhog Day. You're going to see Villanova at the top of the Big Five once again.
Yeah.
They are, in my opinion, I think they can have the best team in the entire country. They're going to certainly be national title contenders again. That team over there, the way Jay gets those guys ready and have them fit into this culture that he instills. And I mean, you've seen how successful it's been on the main line. It's crazy. I think with the Big Five, I think Penn is going to take a little bit of a step back. They lost A.J. Broder, Devin Goodman, and Ryan Betley. Guys that were seniors, of course, are graduating. Temple loses a few guys. They lose Quentin Rose. He's a good scorer. Nate Pierre-Louis. I'm not really sure what's going on with him, if he's going to be in the draft, if he's coming back. Not really sure. I think a team you should watch out for is St. Joe's, because they return everyone. And they bring in some transfers. They bring in Demir Bishop, a transfer from Xavier. He went to Emotep right down the road. They bring in Greg Foster from Gonzaga. They are going to be pretty good. They return a lot of their scoring. I think St. Joe's is going to be – I think they might finish second in the Big Five. I think it's
Wow.
– of course, you have Villanova. I think Villanova is going to, run the table in the Big Five. They're just – they could beat any team in the country. It's not a slight at any of the teams in the Big Five. I just think Villanova can beat any of the teams in the country. But I think 2nd through 5, I think that's going to be a pretty tight race. Not that it means anything. You don't get any hardware for it, but, a little bit of brag.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The Hawk is alive, according to Austin. I like it.
I'll have to see about that.
So, kind of, you just talked about how much of a dominant force Villanova has been, obviously. And we obviously see some similarities from Ash coming from the Villanova program. Do you think that the number one strength of that is that he keeps 4-year guys? Obviously, LaSalle doesn't have the same kind of personnel that would leave earlier to go into the NBA draft. However, it really is a problem for most college basketball teams that really want to compete of losing players before they get 4 years of experience. So do you think that that is the strongest suit? And do you think that's something that Ash is really trying to pursue?
You see Ash, he was an assistant under Jay Wright. He takes a lot of what Villanova was successful at and tries to translate it over to LaSalle. Now, they can't recruit like Villanova does, and that's not his fault. In Villanova, they're just a 2-time national title team. You can't really compete with that. But I see a lot of similarities in that. In the way I think Villanova is so successful, I think it's just a perfect blend. Jay Wright's a good coach. The guys they bring in, they don't always go after the 5-star one-and-done guys. He tried to do that, I think, at the turn of the decade back in 2010. Didn't really work out too well. He kind of took a reset, brought in guys that he knows will fit his system, and you saw from 2014 on, they're constantly getting 1 seeds, 2 seeds in the NCAA tournaments. They're winning titles, they're winning Big East titles. He gets guys that fits what he wants to do. And I think you will see the same thing with Ashley Howard. He's going to get guys that fit what he wants to do. And every coach obviously wants to do that. But I think what Ash focuses on is shooting, defense. I think he's going to bring in guys that will do just that.
Great. Well, that was really great, Austin. I don't have any questions. Siobhan, are you good?
No, I'm fine. I'm good.
All right. Well, Austin, thank you again for joining us. Everyone go check out his writing both at Go Explorers and TrentonToPhilly.com.
Yep.
And great. Well, thank you again, Austin.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Now we're going to send it down to ourselves once again for another edition of Virtual on the Sidelines, where we got to talk with Sam DeCencio, Andrew Weir, and Charlie Collins of the men's soccer team. And we're here today with 3 men's soccer players for LaSalle. We have Charlie Collins, Sam DeCencio, and Andrew Weir here to talk a little bit about the men's soccer season, how it's been affected by Corona, and what they're expecting for the upcoming season. So Tyler.
Yeah, so guys, thank you for joining us. We'll dive right into it. We'll go with the elephant in the room to start. What has this whole experience been like? I mean, how'd you guys find out? What was it like hearing it from the team and figuring out what you were going to do? Just take us through that whole experience.
We were kind of on the fence. That we thought we were going to play till August 17th. So we were kind of holding on to the season for a little bit. And then we got to campus and found out season was canceled. They're like, we wouldn't even be able to practice. Mm-hmm. And then we found out in the spring that our whole season was – or summer that our whole season was moved to the spring.
Yeah. And I was going to say, it's kind of it was an interesting time. So, all the way back to, when it started, we weren't really, in the dark. But, no one really knew. So the whole time we're kind of just, in the spring, we're maybe we'll be able to come back for the spring. And it kind of just kept going on all the way through the summer. At least we'll be here for preseason. Then there is no preseason. And we had to quarantine for 2 weeks when we get back before we play, and then our practice schedule was originally like all non-contact, sort of in bubbles. Like the athletics department had a whole plan for that, but unfortunately, like as we went online fully, they weren't able to carry out that plan.
Yeah, and like all our friends from back home also played. Like their seasons were getting canceled, and we were kind of just waiting for ours to like completely get shut down. So it wasn't too much surprise, but it still hurts the same, you know.
Yeah, and a big disappointment especially is the fact that you guys welcomed 11 new players into your team this season. So from a player's perspective, what do you think those 11 players would have brought to the team had you started on time?
Well, I've only met like a few of them, but like we came in as a really big squad like that too. Like we had like probably 15 freshmen coming in, which is always like it's a big change when you're bringing in that many freshmen. So it's hard to say what they would have done, but I think they were like all going to be very good players, and like I look forward to playing with them in the future. But it's definitely very tough for them, like going into their freshman year and just not being able to like come to campus at all and like play soccer like they thought they were going to. Our roster also, we only have one senior, so we're sort of on the younger side. I mean, they definitely would have had a bigger impact because like they definitely would have been getting minutes and having a huge role in our team.
Yeah, and like Andrew was saying, we came in with a big class. So I think us being juniors, a part of that big class coming in as freshmen, we could have really helped another big class come through and like shown them the ropes what it takes to be a Division I athlete.
Yeah, definitely. So kind of going off of that, actually, now all three of you are becoming juniors, so kind of taking more of a leadership role as you become upperclassmen. Probably not the way you expected it, but this is a pretty big opportunity to show your leadership. What have you guys kind of seen or done from either the three of you or other people in your position to kind of keep the team unified, keep everyone together, and keep everyone ready? Because who knows when you guys will play next.
Yeah, I mean it's been pretty tough, honestly. I mean we've been doing our best reaching out, but like there hasn't been too much team contact. Like, they obviously wanted to keep us separated, so it's been tough to be unified and but we've all been playing, so
Yeah, and we definitely have a lot of like social like contact with them. Like we have like group chats that are always going, so like we still like keep that like social bond going strong,
yeah,
even though we're not seeing each other.
Staying safe.
Yeah.
So this is such an unprecedented time for everyone, and now that we're all in isolation, we have a lot of time to think and reflect and just learn new things about ourselves. So what has this taught you, not just about being a player, but just taught you about yourself and the mental kind of strength that you need to get through this time?
Well, I think like the hardest part about like all this is like when you're being an athlete, like you can't play on teams like during the summer, so it's kind of like you have to push yourself. Like you still have to go out and like play, even though you're not going to be like playing with teams. So like you always have to keep pushing no matter what.
It kind of left your own resources. Like other people are out there getting better, practicing by themselves. So it's kind of like, yeah, you're held accountable to like how good you want to be coming into the season based on what you're doing by yourself. So that was definitely an adjustment.
Definitely like a team level too. I mean, you kind of just got to think that like everyone else on your team is training, everyone else is playing, like everyone wants to come back better.
You don't want to be that guy who isn't prepared.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like a sense of responsibility, definitely. Going off of that, more than just kind of your players and yourself kind of pushing yourself, has the coaching staff kind of been expecting anything from you at this time, or like giving you any tips or tricks to kind of what he wants to see you guys working on individually throughout this time?
I mean, he all throughout like the spring when we went online originally, like we had contact. We would meet probably once every 2 weeks, and he sent us a packet with a lot of like training stuff. We have like a fitness packet and a strength conditioning, that kind of thing. And in the summer, he also sent us one, and kind of just like wasn't making sure people were like were playing, but like just reaching out. And it was like a tough time. It's like even past soccer, just like he'd always just reach out, call me a few times, just like see if I was okay, like thoughts for the fall were. And now that we're in the fall and we're not playing still, we've had some meetings, he's reached out, and I think a lot of people, he's like encourage us to go play with other team, like outside club teams, just because we're allowed to do that. It's like for NCAA rules. So we've kind of just been like reaching out and seeing what we're doing for playing soccer that way.
And so even though we're not sure if the spring season is going to work out or what's going to happen, what are your guys' expectations for the team as a whole, and what do you think your performance is going to be if you can get back on the playing field this year?
I mean, like based on the arc of how our past years have gone, we've gotten better and better. And I think like we've been talking about having such a core class as a freshman coming in, and like how every player's grown since then. I think we definitely can be a dangerous team and beat some good teams out there. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
I was definitely excited for the season.
Yeah, some of our like most significant players were freshmen last year as well. Some like the foreigner kids we have, like Frank especially. Like there's a lot of guys that like stepped up last year. We excited to see them with like some experience under their belt. I think they would have played really well. I mean, hopefully we get to play in the spring or even next fall. I mean, whenever it is, we'll be ready.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it comes down to like I was saying earlier, like how much you work on yourself like during this time, because like everyone's going to be slowing down right now, and this is like an opportunity for you to like pick it up. Like you come back and everyone's been kind of relaxing, and you can come in and everyone's been working on this team, and you can make a big impact.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, that's great. So not to get too personal here with this kind of question, but I've always been interested now with the quote unquote like coronavirus red shirt, what that kind of conversation is like for teams. Like, have any of you three kind of considered it if it's granted for the fall season, or have you heard of anyone that's kind of taking them up on that? Like, what do you think that's kind of been like?
Yeah, I mean, nobody really on this team that I can think of really like pulled the trigger on that, but
Right.
definitely like, people from back home are taking gap years or like taking advantage of that year of eligibility. I mean, like we'll see what the spring looks like, and it's not like a great season or a platform like what we're looking for. I could definitely see myself taking a year off. For sure.
Yeah, I like definitely would want if like something would happen where we aren't able to play in the spring, and by my senior year it's only my third year and I still have 1 year left, I would definitely consider just instead of graduating doing another half year, even just to play like the fall season. But I mean, I'd want to play all 4 years.
Mhm.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
We only have 4 years to play, and we're getting like not a full season. We might as well take advantage of having like a proper season.
Yeah, and I think like coming in this fall, everyone was like prepared to play, even like under the circumstances of like our conference was kind of like split up. But like going forward, I mean, I guess we just have to see. But like, I guess there's some circumstances where I'd like think about maybe pulling like a red shirt. But like, if everyone's playing and everyone's ready to go, and I think it's going to be like worth it in that season, then I'm definitely going to play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So on a more lighthearted note, is there anything that you guys have been doing besides soccer during quarantine? Like, have you picked up any new hobbies? You've been keeping up with any soccer teams like MLS, Premier League, that kind of thing?
These are the two guys to talk to about that.
Yeah, we've been like playing a lot of guitar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, get ready for some.
Might start a band.
Yeah,
Who
we'll
knows?
see.
Oh, there you go. Come on the show whenever you want to come perform.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They built a skate ramp in the backyard too, and they've been skateboarding a lot. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty.
We've had some time on our hands, definitely.
Yeah, for sure.
Been binge watching a lot of shows.
Yeah.
Like
Any
what?
recommendations for us?
We just started Scrubs.
Yeah,
I'll say.
it's a classic.
I watched that for the first time.
That's
Yeah, what else did we just watch?
show.
Community was a
Oh
really
yeah,
good show
Community's a great
on
one.
Netflix.
Barry's a great recommendation.
Bear on
Yeah.
HBO is a
Yeah.
fantastic show.
All right. Good tips.
Awesome.
Yeah, but definitely good to end on a lighthearted note. Thank you guys for coming in to
Yeah.
talk about pretty tough topic, but hopefully we can be talking about the LaSalle Explorers in the spring semester or in the fall, and hopefully we can get 4 years out of you guys, because definitely be great to see for the Explorers. Siobhan, do you have anything else?
No, just thank you guys so much for sitting down and interviewing us. It's a really good interview.
All right, great. So
Thank you so much.
And with that, we're going to send it back to the desk.
Just about wraps it up for us this week. If you can't make it out to see the Explorer Report, be sure to tune in next week for our coverage. Keep up with LaSalle sports by visiting goexplorers.com.
Also, check us out on Facebook at facebook.com/LaSalleTV and on social media at SportsLine LTV. We welcome you to send your thoughts and suggestions there.
For Austin and our SportsLine team, I'm Siobhan Nolan.
And I'm Tyler Small. Thank you for joining us, and we'll see you at the game.